and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Our first item on our agenda is a new hire. I'll turn that over to Adam.
Yeah, on behalf of the high school, it is a privilege to recommend Ms. Chelsea Bolus as our new director of choirs. She is currently teaching in New Mexico, and so will not be able to join us this evening, but the high school administration will bring her to meet the board in August, so we get a chance to put a face with a name and shake hands with her, get a chance to meet her. Ms. Bolus is a graduate of Michigan State with a major in music education. As typical, she went through a multi-round interview process, including the first 2 rounds with members of our music department, as well as the high school administration, finishing off with a virtual meeting with myself, Steve Delp, and Deb LaFleur. I'll just read briefly from the reference letter that the board had been provided previously. She is a highly qualified candidate, comes to us with outstanding experience and references. Professionally, Ms. Bolus has taught choir for the last 8 years and has experience teaching at both the high school and middle school levels. Additionally, she has experience with musical and theatrical productions. When talking with Ms. Bolus's references, one administrator stated Ms. Bolus has a strong foundation in content knowledge and creates coherent instruction that is well-paced and engaging for students. A teaching colleague stated, Chelsea gets to know her students well. She provides feedback, holds students to high and obtainable standards. She's easy to work with and connects well with students and adults. Her current building principal reported Chelsea is one of the most talented choral directors he has ever worked with. She is willing to strive above expectations and is extremely talented. Ms. Bolus is good at building relationships within the school community and beyond. So it is, again, a privilege to have the opportunity to recommend her. One interesting note, she has been teaching out of state for a number of years, but is familiar with the Williamston area. Prior to her, I think, obtaining her teaching license, she was a local music director for one of our local congregations in town. So she knows the area, even though she's currently teaching pretty far away.
Nice. Any questions for Adam? All right. Well, this is really exciting. One of the most exciting things, probably up there with graduation, that the board gets to do is to welcome new hires to our district. So, with that being said, I will take a motion for a recommendation to hire Miss Chelsea Bolus.
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education hire Chelsea Bolus to be a teacher beginning with the 2023-24 school year.
Second.
Second by Dave. All right, motion by Chris, second by Dave. Any other questions, comments? Discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, congratulations to Mrs. Chelsea Bolus. We look forward to meeting her in August. All right, so moving on to the first citizen comments that we have on our agenda. We have 2 opportunities for this. This is just the first one. So are there any citizens that would like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we will move on to celebrations. Adam.
All right, well, we'll start with our most important celebration of the year and the reason that all of us are here, which was graduation yesterday. We had the great fortune to graduate 147 outstanding seniors, class of 2023. Very proud of them, as has been noted numerous occasions. One of those classes that had to push through some unprecedented circumstances, yet persevered and has gone on to accomplish a lot during their time at the high school, as Dr. Delp noted during some of his remarks yesterday. So again, congratulations to those 147 students, their parents, and the community for all of their investment in those outstanding young people who undoubtedly will go on to do some amazing things. Moving towards the website, a number of stories that I'll mention. So as is our tradition, we annually have our top 10 graduates, and more recently our All-A honor roll. So we have a story posted about those graduates on the website, both the top 10 and those students who achieved an All-A record during their 4 years at the high school. Pretty impressive group of young people, and you can read about what their plans are moving into next year and beyond. A couple STEAM stories, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics that I'll mention from the website. And the interesting thing about this is they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. When we talk about our district being leaders in STEAM education, I think these two stories are really representative of that, both in terms of how we start those students and then where they get to towards the end of their educational journey. So the first was the Young Fives Garden Celebration, which took place, I think, about 2 weeks ago. And this is a fully integrated learning experience that takes place at the Young Fives level. Students are interacting with science and mathematics themes through music and through art. Of course, the culmination of that whole learning process is this garden concert that they host, which was very well attended. And again, not only the music piece, but also the science and mathematics integration that takes part of that. Not to mention the arts, which were extremely impressive. On the opposite end of that journey, or the end of that journey, we have the Math and Science Academy Showcase, which again is an annual tradition. It's the one event all year I leave feeling not that smart after walking out of there when I look at some of the things those kids are doing. But as I wrote the MSA advisors after the event, the thing I like most about it is that it's very authentic and genuine, and when you're talking with the kids, you can see that they're very much interested in what it was they were doing, and they like talking about it, and they're really proud of the work that they've contributed, whether it's the sophomores with the more robotics themes presentations or the juniors from the research class talking about all that effort they put into producing that original work. I know Dr. Cluckwell mentioned depth of knowledge later in some of her curriculum recommendations, but when we talk about DOK, the highest level, a level 4, is when you're producing new knowledge. And that is what the students in that research class are endeavoring to do through the research, which in many cases gets published later on. So that whole STEAM continuum from Young Fives to the high school MSA represented through those two stories. I also want to note the seniors contributing. This is something that had been postponed for a number of years, but was brought back this year, which was their senior project. And this is kind of a community service project combined with an opportunity for students to kind of choose to a certain extent what part of the school district they want to give back to during that day. So we had students doing everything from helping in the elementary library, working in the cafeteria. We had several integrated into different classrooms at the elementary level, assisting teachers with their classroom lessons, which was really cool. And then we had a large group that went out and did a whole variety of support for the maintenance department. And I talked to all of our maintenance department afterwards, and they were genuinely appreciative. I mean, they were saying, like, we got more done today. This would have taken us months. And I think it's emblematic of the group of seniors we have. Again, just really proud, positive, and really took what they were doing seriously, and I think valued giving back to the district. And it really showed. I mean, just great role models for the kids they were around, and genuinely helpful for our very small maintenance department. We had a student at the high school enter and win the MLK Art Contest, which is sponsored by the Mid-Michigan MLK Commission. This year, as you might recall, our student artists at the high school in particular have really been outstanding in terms of some of the recognitions they've earned across the board at the different competitions, including winning both of the MSU-SU art competition categories. This was a different student artist that received this recognition, but her artwork and the caption behind it are posted on the site as well, so congratulations there. And then I'm going to take a shot at this, and hopefully I don't miss anything. If I do, I will get a story posted later on this spring when all the spring sports are concluded. But as up to date as I think I can get, Girls soccer won districts last week. They'll be playing in the regional semifinals, which is their tradition, starting tomorrow. That game is tomorrow at Williamston Catholic. The baseball team won districts for the second year in a row. On Saturday, they will be playing in the regional semifinal game in Fowlerville on Wednesday. Girls lacrosse are playing in the state semifinal game. I believe that is Wednesday, and if they win that, the finals are on Saturday in Rockford. Boys lacrosse had a really good run. They did unfortunately lose over the weekend, but a really strong showing for that team. Girls tennis were state finalists again this year, and I think this is at least the second year and maybe more in a row that they've had qualifying for the state tournament. So that has become kind of a quiet dynasty there in terms of some of the accomplishments of that program over the last few years. We had 2 golfers move on to the boys state finals in that sport, and we had a number of individuals qualify for the state finals in track. So I'm sure I missed something, but if I did, it'll get posted later when we do a spring sports roll-up, and I'll rebrief the board at the applicable time once all those competitions have concluded. So those are celebrations for this evening. Having any questions?
Any questions for Adam? All right, thank you. So next up is educational update, and we have the director of Kids Corner Little Hornets, Rebecca Olson.
So thank you for allowing me to come tonight and share some of our educational updates with the board. I'll focus, I'm director of the Kids Corner and Little Hornets program, but this presentation will primarily focus on the educational experience of our Little Hornet preschoolers, followed at the end with some of our entire program updates. So today, I'm going to highlight some of the investments in our program throughout the year. So primarily investments in our teachers, investments in our curriculum, and then investments in our environments. All of those investments impact student achievement, which is our ultimate goal. So that's how it's structured for the night. So first and foremost, I wanted to kind of showcase some of our investment in our teachers this year. There's a huge laundry list of professional development opportunities in which teachers went through this year. And in our program, we have a variety of teachers at various levels. So we have our lead teachers, we have our assistant teachers, we have our before and after school teachers, and we have our subs. And so we really want to put forth good effort in making sure that all of those teachers have individualized and targeted instruction for the roles in which they play. So we did have 3 different initiatives with our professional development. The first one was focusing on our math and literacy goals of building strong foundational skills in those math and literacy areas. So our professional development opportunities focused on kind of the scope and sequence, the learning trajectories of beginning mathematics. That is an area that kind of the early childhood realm hasn't put a huge focus on. And recently they are starting to. So more professional development opportunities are coming along, talking about how children learn mathematics, what is the correct trajectory of that domain, and what are the best instructional ways to introduce those concepts. So we had a couple opportunities to do that as a leadership and as well as a year-long study for some of the lead teachers. A strong focus was put on our curriculum, our Connect for Learning curriculum, and I'll highlight that in just a little bit, but it's our second year of implementation, so a deeper dive into the skills and the rationale behind the curriculum was our focus this year for teachers. One of the major impacts of our professional development was the year-long book study that we did amongst the lead teachers, myself, some of our coaches from the ISD, and our early childhood specialists. And that focused on the book Impact Visual Learning for Early Childhood, which was written by Hattie, Alma Road, and Thunder. And anyone in the Williamston district knows Hattie's name as a really renowned researcher. Well, this was the first opportunity that he applied his research and wrote a book specifically for the early childhood realm. looking at the effect size of different instructional strategies on that very young learner. And so this, beginning this first year of our book study, we really focused on the content of the book. We had really great, rich discussions about what was written within the book. We explored different videos that were connected with the book of teachers applying these strategies, and then we talked about how to apply them in our classroom. This is a wealth of knowledge within this book, and it's not a one-year undertaking. So we're going to continue on with this project next year, hopefully incorporate some more teacher reflection, more application, and continue with that work. The second initiative that we did for professional development focused on our social emotional goal of building social and emotional competence in all young learners. And we kind of tweaked it by going through the focusing on the inclusive practices within the preschool program. Williamston Early Childhood Programs, in cooperation with the Special Education Department, applied for and received a grant through the Ingham ISD to promote inclusive practices amongst the early childhood environments. Williamston has always been on the forefront of having a full inclusion preschool program, but this grant money gave us an opportunity to do more professional development for our teachers, do more professional development for our parapros, acquire some more devices to use in our classrooms. And so one of the major professional development opportunities that the lead teachers went to was the, trying to read the exact name of it, International Early Childhood Inclusion Institute. And that was out of University of North Carolina. We attended virtually, and then we still had all of the professional development courses available to us after for the next month, and so we're revisiting some of those concepts. But it really looks to the mindset of having teachers value inclusive practices, give them more ability and deepen their toolkits to include children of all skill levels and needs within our classrooms. The third area of focus was on that professional development for our Connect for Learning curriculum. And so I'll kind of highlight some of that. We started off the year with creating that mindset of where do we want to go with our curriculum this year. So we had kind of a Connect for Learning 2.0 kickoff in our fall PD, and it looked at really the learning trajectories within the curriculum. So the first year of implementing a curriculum, teachers understand kind of what they're doing, and they get an awareness feel of it. The second year really targets the how you're doing it and the why you're doing it. Teachers need to know why they're doing what they're doing in order to do it well. So we know that implementing a new curriculum is a process. And so we take that first year to learn the what, the second year to learn the what, the why and how, and then the third year to truly implement that curriculum. So a couple of the highlights for this, in addition to our professional development, is we simultaneously, while learning about the curriculum, learned how to implement it to fidelity, implement it to how it is intended, how it is written by the authors. So we developed a fidelity tool for administrators, coaches, and teachers to use to guide their practice and evaluate their practices. What we saw with using this tool was an increased implementation of the activities as written. Last year, teachers were using it, still supplementing activities with a lot of their previously experiences. This year, they really implemented it as it intended, which is a positive. Really examine the teaching methods that the curriculum is identifying and using those narratives that the lessons are identifying. Within that, throughout our year, teachers really reported an increased knowledge in the learning trajectories of each domain. They understood why the authors sequenced the activities that they did, and that helped them to teach and instruct children better. One of the biggest impacts of the implementation of our curriculum this second year was the family responses. We did surveys in the spring of '22, winter of '23, and spring of '23. And in that, the families reported an increase in the understanding of what their student was learning, what the student learning outcomes were. In that, one of the biggest feedback from the survey was the parents reporting how interested and motivated the students were, how enthusiastic they were about their work in the curriculum. This was demonstrated through several showcase opportunities where families were invited in and the students showcased their learning. So we know a well-motivated student is an engaged student, and then they get a deeper understanding of their work. So taking a step back a little bit, we adopted this curriculum for the integrated approach through all of the domains because it had a heavy evidence-based instructional practices in literacy and mathematics. And we talked a little bit about mathematics has always been kind of that domain that gets swept to the side in early childhood. And this one had a really strong mathematical focus. So throughout the year, part of our school improvement goals is always to align to evidence-based strategies. And so this kind of shows the alignment of our curriculum to evidence-based strategies, particularly the published sources written by the General Education Leadership Network, or GLEN, which really looks at instructional strategies in literacy and mathematics. These are written for a pre-K through 3 grade level, so there's alignment between the preschool programs and what's happening at the elementary school. And we saw a really strong alignment with our curriculum this year and those resources that guide our early childhood profession. So some of the main highlights of here that we showed progress was the first one of the daily read-alouds and high-quality literature. Now, that's not a new concept for early childhood. We want high-quality literature and we want daily read-alouds every single day. But what we found was that the books within this curriculum really contained a lot of informational text. It gained a lot of ability to showcase concepts of print, and the children were really truly engaged. The teachers liked the text and the children liked the text. And when that happens, again, we know that learning improves. We were also able to, the curriculum really aligns with the daily use of playing with the sounds of words, so it really aligned with our increase in our phonological awareness skills that I'll show you on the next page, as well as brief, clear, explicit instruction in alphabetic knowledge. There is an opportunity for very direct instruction for our preschool students. We don't want them sitting in desks, but we do want them having short bursts of really direct instruction, and that impacts learning. The mathematics alignment that helped, that aligned to our school improvement goals was the not only engagement, or I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. Our school improvement goal for mathematics, as well as unified grade reporting and reporting student progress, was the engagement of formative assessment as a process. So really looking and assessing students while they're engaged in those activities is a goal of our program and a very important concept within this curriculum. So then using that assessment, using that information that they teachers gain through those lessons to then drive instructions and make better instructional decisions for students. We really also focused on having cognitively demanding mathematical tasks for children. We talk a lot about rigor, and that's that great word that they use a lot in the middle and high school levels, but it is applied to the early childhood levels as well. We want to respect those young minds and continue to challenge them. And really, when teachers look at what will challenge a child, not only how to introduce a skill, but how to have a student demonstrate that skill and then articulate that skill, that's when your tasks become cognitively challenging. So all of this, when we invest in teachers, we invest in curriculum, it makes an impact on student achievement. So we won't spend a lot of time talking about exactly student achievement. Some of the really goals of early childhood is to develop social emotional competence in young children, to really have confidence, to have a positive attitude towards learning, really have that independence as they move towards kindergarten. We also want to look at all of the other areas of development, the cognitive, the physical, mathematics, and literacy. And as you can see, we are exiting Little Hornet preschools at proficiency levels for entering kindergarten at a high rate. One of the slide on the right is your social emotional data. And one of our school improvement goals was to align our previous social emotional supplemental curriculum with our current curriculum. So let me elaborate on that just a little bit. We have the Connect for Learning curriculum, which I just described to you. We also have a supplemental curriculum called Second Step, which has been used across the district. One of the goals was to take the best attributes of both curriculums, because they both are evidence-based, they both have really good positive output, and say, how can we engage both of these curriculums within our environments? And so the teachers the teachers and myself worked out really a written system of implementation that balanced both of those skills and both of those curriculum. And when we did that, we saw a really strong reduction in the amount of behavior reports that was written this year. As you can see, we talk about, Dr. Spina was just talking about the depth of knowledge, and we want to look at that at preschool level as well. Here's two of our sub-skills one is a sub-skill of literacy, which is phonological awareness. The other is a sub-skill quantifying, which is a math, concepts of number sub-skill. And over the last couple of years, our students from Little Hornets have exited with proficiency in both of those skills. What we're finding between last year and this year is a deeper knowledge of the skills. So in quantifying, more students are exceeding that level of proficiency. And then we did see a significant increase in phonological sub-skills from 2 years ago and a slight increase over last year using this curriculum. So moving forward, next steps, we'll continue with our program initiatives of working towards curriculum implementation with fidelity, as well as that use of evidence-based instructional strategies. You can see some of the smaller skills, continuing with our literacy initiatives, as well as math. And one of the highlight of our social emotional initiatives for next year that was started this year is the pre-K, K alignment of those zones of regulation. You've probably heard of those through other, maybe the elementary update, and that is something that we are working with Heather Lewis, the mental health and well-being specialist across our district, to align the programming that's happening in kindergarten with preschool. Some preliminary work occurred this year, and we're going to continue that work next year. Okay. So we've talked about investment in our curriculum, investment in our teachers. Here's investment in our environment. Thank you so much for approving the purchase of our playground improvement project. If you were anywhere near the elementary campus in mid-April, you saw all of the construction that occurred. It was very exciting to watch, and it was very exciting to have accomplished. So there's just kind of blank ones, and here is, I think, pictures of every single school-age kiddo that I had in the afternoon was on that school-age structure after school. I don't think their feet ever hit the ground. But you can just see that we did achieve the goals that we wanted to achieve, creating that true outdoor classroom environment that supports all of our domains of learning, so that the classrooms can really be outside all of the time. We've had a very strong, positive family and community response to the project. We've allowed for increased amounts of kids to be out on the playground as well. We still have a little bit more of our playground project to undertake, And we did some installation of 3 different picnic tables and a buddy bench that just occurred a couple days ago, so that, again, more activities, more of the indoor learning experiences can go out in the outdoor classroom. You can read those there. We still had some leftover funds from the Child Care Stabilization Grant, so we're able to undertake a couple smaller projects. We do plan on doing some more vinyl flooring for our preschool classrooms. This will aid in just the cleanliness and you know, some of the cleaning procedures that came out of COVID, as well as some updated cabinetry. One of our larger mid-sized ones is we're able to upgrade the swings. We weren't able to do it in the fall when I originally brought you the proposal, but we had some extra funds, so we were able to swing it to get those swing upgrades and allow some more inclusivity of that swings. Questions on anything I just said? I tried to talk fast because you're all cold.
Any questions? I have some
Okay.
comments and questions.
Okay.
So yes, all the kids in the afternoon were on that playground, and even like early drop off,
Mhm.
they constantly go to that playground and are playing. So I think that was a really nice update to the playground learning area. So we're going to be moving into year 3 of the new curriculum,
Mhm.
starting in the fall. And I've seen firsthand from my early learner and touring during the coral reef investigation, truly the depth of knowledge that these students are able to answer questions like, oh, well, tell me about this. And they're like, oh, well, this is, I don't even know the exact name of, I didn't know the fish, but they were like, oh yeah, this is why, and this is what they eat, and this is what they do. And they're able to do more in-depth questions and answers and reflections based on the new updated curriculum. So my question is more like staff focused. So you talked a lot about teachers reported increased knowledge and learning trajectories of each domain. So that first year is kind of trying to figure out this new curriculum,
Mhm.
asking questions, why, how, things like that. The second year is probably working out like some of the kinks that you learned the previous year. So what are teachers reporting and feeling like going into the third year?
So I think we talk a lot about differentiated learning and really teaching for that individual student. When teachers know where they're going and the sequence in which they're going to do an activity and become familiar with the lesson, once you're familiar with that lesson, then you can see the scope of what the children might do. Particularly, one of the stronger concepts is understanding where a child might have misconceptions. And so if you can really understand a lesson, understand the narrative, and then predict where a child might have misconceptions, you can adjust your instructional strategy. And so that's where I think teachers are going to be able to go. They can then formulate those misconceptions, identify specific questions that are going to get surface level as well as deeper level thinking, and those will be 2 of the areas that we'll really focus on. A third area was really working at clarity of the learning target. Having a teacher really articulate the skill that the child is doing, as well as how a child can self-assess themselves on their learning, so that we give more of the responsibility. They're motivated, they're interested in the topic, now they can recognize themselves as a self-sufficient learner.
And teachers are making those, individualized supports, like, oh, this one is proficient, so they need an extension to this, or this one might not be meeting this concept, so they're need a simplification
Yes.
to the activity or learning outcome.
Yes.
So I think that's great. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Well, you're not done
She's
with
got
me
more.
yet.
No, but sorry, handbook is next.
So moving on to the handbook, you will see in your board book, there's a ton of red in there. There's a lot of edits that were just made for better wording, readability, movement of sections. I am the fifth person to provide you an education update, so some of these things are district initiatives, so I'll try not to focus as much on those. You've read that in your document. I'll try and highlight what's specific just to Little Hornets or Kids Corner. So I updated our inclement weather policy just to allow a couple extra days for district closure. This was kind of consistent with some closures that we've had in the past couple of years, as well as we eliminated that half first day of school, so I had a little bit of play in there. We, by doing that increase, we will still adhere to the required number of days that's set forth for the Great Start Readiness Program for a school year, because we have extra days on either end of that. We did the updated visitor policy for the classroom and program information, so that is right there. On page 13, we just kind of updated how we deliver our data sharing for our stakeholders. In the past, and what we said is that we weren't getting participation in the previous format, so we eliminated that format and incorporated more into celebrations of learning. So that articulates that in the handbook. We just kind of revisited the registration, enrollment, and tuition section, just reformatted that to detail some more of the tuition policies and the expanded payment opportunities, tuition schedules, and registration fees. So some of those registration fees was the increase per the board approval previously, and the payment information was we adopted a new accounting, child care management accounting program in the fall, and that didn't make it into the handbook. So that demonstrates how we do credit card and ACH processing right now. The next couple are just alignment to district and elementary campus policies, some different required information for homeless students to process. The next major section was the nutrition section, and we are really, really going on that line of inclusivity and addressing individual student needs. And so we retitled the category for a broader scope. We added information about lunches. We've added Amanda Galitas and myself created a new form for a parent request for specialized diet, which aligns with our district policies as well as Great Start Readiness policies and good nutrition quality indicators. Emergency procedures, we included some of our safety drills that wasn't in there before. And then a couple of the final ones, the inclusive practices on page 31. We retitled this to just have that broader scope and expand family services, including the translation of written materials and use of home language within the classroom. Any questions about any of those policies or updates?
I know we talked about it before, but I can't remember. Is there no sibling discount anymore?
There is a sibling
There
discount.
is.
That just wasn't highlighted because it was new last year and it was already in the handbook.
Right.
So it still
Okay.
is a 10% discount. That is in, I can tell you the exact page, probably page 20. It should be in there. It's page 21. It was just moved from page 19
Okay,
to page
great.
21.
That's what it was.
Addition about the Kids Corner, Little Hornet family handbook? Or you were just spoke about?
That was the family handbook.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is superintendent's report.
All right, well, I was going to mention that the new middle school chiller is fully operational.
You see it.
I think we can tell.
Yeah, but hey,
I
return
think
on
we can,
investment, it's
we
working.
can tell.
So just a couple other things to note. Upcoming events, our last regular board meeting for the year is on the 19th of June. Ed update will be James Doyen, soon to be the Director of Technology, effective the 1st of July. And he'll be presenting on the one-to-one Chromebook initiative after its first year. There will be a survey coming out later this month to schedule our special board meeting for July, so just look for that here in the next week or two. The other piece I wanted to point out was by board request a couple meetings ago, there had been a ask that we revamp the calendar tool on the school website. So we're just going to kind of quickly roll through that. So on the district homepage, the tab on the far right up at the top is the calendar tab, as you can see on the screen. And so now this is a completely new interface. It's actually a whole new tool than what was there before. It's been imported into the system. And so what this allows us to do is to sync both the athletics calendar and then all 4 school campus calendars as well as the district calendar. So if something's put into any one of those, then it automatically gets imported into this master calendar that shows on the district homepage. It's only available there. We can't roll through a whole, so that's May. So you can see when you do that, you're gonna get a whole lot of stuff. Like I think on one date, there were something like 16 different events on that day. That might be overwhelming for folks though, right? So you can actually toggle these on and off by filtering them, and you can also actually import them into your own personal calendar. So you scroll down to the bottom, we won't do it now because you have to log into a calendar to do it, but that plus Google Calendar tab at the bottom, if you click on there, then it'll move to your calendar. It works best if you have a Google Calendar, but it's not necessary from my understanding. And then from there, you'll get 6 check boxes, and then you can actually toggle off the calendars you don't want to have. So for example, if you have a student at Discovery and you don't want to see the high school, the middle school, the athletics, and the district calendar, you can just unselect all those and you'll just get Discovery. Or if you have a student at the middle school, but you really want to stay up to date with high school athletics, you can just click the middle school one and athletics, and then you'll get both those calendars integrating into your own personal calendar. So this is about 2 weeks old, so I'm sure there'll still be some things that we need to catch as it moves forward, but so far so good. We've noticed that when like the playoff dates after we win a game and there's a new game scheduled, they're syncing pretty quickly as we update that so far. So, but if you have any technical questions or you notice a glitch or something like that, like I said, James will be here in a couple of weeks and he can walk through some of the technical details of this. So that is it for me for superintendent's update. Any questions?
Any questions?
I'm gonna show you something afterwards, just with a technical glitch on that you can pass on.
I was looking at it and I was thinking, James has to tell us what calendar goes to what, because they're all,
Yes.
like you can't tell
That's
what
it.
calendar is for, because I was like, oh, that's great, I'm gonna go add it to my
Yeah.
Google Calendar now, so.
It's all HTML kind of links.
Verbiage.
You
we're,
can't tell.
We're aware of that. And
Okay.
That's just going to take a little time to figure that out.
Okay,
You,
all right.
that was what I was gonna say.
You can kind of try
Process of
over it and figure-
elimination.
Process of elimination. You'll figure out. It might take you a minute or two, but yeah, that's kind of like phase 2 is to figure out how to.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna show you.
But it's great.
But the one that has like teams in it, that's the athletics one. So that's kind of the easy one to figure out.
And I like how when you're on the website, on our website, if you just hover your pointer over, it will give you more details of what that event is. So if you're like, oh, what is, it doesn't say soccer, but what is SG something? You know, you can hover your mouse over it and it gives you a brief description of what that event is. I think that's really handy feature to have. Anything else? Okay, moving on to finance and facilities. Chris?
Well, we had a great finance meeting, we delved a lot into our budget, and we're gonna hear quite a bit about that today from Sarah, so I won't spend a lot of time there, but we did, everything basically we covered in this meeting we'll be covering today in the discussion items.
Any questions? Okay, that brings up our first discussion item from our curriculum director, Dr. Michelle Cook. Lots of curriculum recommendations.
Thank you for having me and putting
coming up with 4 topics tonight, different topics. Before I begin, I'm starting out with the request for some novels for our high school, 12th grade. But before I begin, I would like to let you know that I am tabling the book Freedom Writer's Diary by Erin Gruwell that is in your board book at this time. So tonight, I do have a request for board approval and purchase of 2 high school novels to be added to the English department's unit called Resiliency. I did provide the 2 books tonight, and they're being passed around. The novels are Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly and A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park. The 2 books have been vetted by the high school English department teachers. I have brought a copy for each, as I stated, and I'll have them at central office for the next 2 weeks for you to look at. The novels align to the Common Core standards under R1 to R4 and R10. These novels support students' abilities to read and comprehend complex literacy and informational text independently. They provide a scaffold for analysis, understanding themes, and reflection in their reading. The text will also aid in the student's ability to present information and findings with supporting details in their writing. The purchase of the novels align and enhance the high school SIP goal, number 1, which states all 9 through 12 students will be college or career ready in reading. Additionally, the novels support hypothesizing and transfer of knowledge learning outcomes which align with depths of knowledge level 3 and 4. So tonight I am asking for the board to approve the purchase of the 2 novels. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, and if I don't know, to get back to you before you vote in 2 weeks.
I'll add a clarification that in this unit, this is one of those where students have a variety of books to choose from. So this would be replacing 2 books on the previous list with these 2. So it's not that students will be required to read either, but there'll be a menu of options that they have available.
And copies are available, we would have a number of copies available for the students to read them? Where is it?
That's the request, that if the board approves this as curriculum, we would then move forward with the purchase.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And one thing I didn't add, we're using ESSER 3 money for this purchase as well. Any other?
questions for Dr. Cook?
I will move on to my next memo
Yeah,
that's
so I
in
just want
the
to
book.
make clear that if you do have questions, that you get these answered before our next board meeting, because this will be up for action at our next board meeting. Go ahead.
Thank you. So tonight I'm also putting forth a request for the board to approve an update to the AP American History textbook, which will begin fall of 2023. I brought the original textbook, which they have been using, as well as the updated version for you to look at. That also will be at central office for 2 weeks. The current American Pageant textbook is the 14th edition, and it has not been updated in over 10 years. The 17th edition is now available for purchase. Additionally, I'm recommending the switch from hardcover books to the digital version. There are benefits to obtaining the online version of the AP edition of the American Pageant 17th edition. As you can see from the sample book, which I put at the edge, the book is very large and cumbersome. The digital version can be viewed by our students. Thank you, board, for using their one-to-one devices that you have approved. The students will be able to obtain the most up-to-date version of the text, as it will automatically update when there are additional additions needed. It is easily accessible from any environment where an internet connection is available. Students today are computer literate and are able to quickly navigate the website. They can print, copy, and save information easily when using a digital platform. The cost of the digital version is $1,650, which is based on a per student fee. This year's cost will be paid through our ESSER 3 funds. This course is taught every other year, so it's not taught every year, Due to the need to update the AP American History textbook, I am asking the board to approve the purchase beginning the 2023-24 school year to a digital platform, the American Pageant 17th edition. Do you have any questions?
I do have a question. So would this book fall into, like, if a Ferris class, like we just expanded that Ferris expansion, would the AP classes fall under, if students, would this like class fall under that and be acceptable to all these, the different,
I
to be able to get college credit and do all that kind of stuff? So I didn't know if this would fall under like a Ferris also acceptable curriculum, if that was one of the classes, or is it not?
I do not believe so. This is for our AP.
For just our specific,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Students do need internet access to view the material? Is that
I'm
offline?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can students view the material offline?
Offline, no. I believe they have to be online to be able to get it.
So you can't download the textbook onto our one-to-one Chromebook device. It has to be on, you have to be connected to the internet.
To
in
an
order to do
internet.
it.
Yeah. I can find out for you, I can call them, but that's never been the way that they've explained it to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Julie, was your question whether U.S. history was one of the ones that was being considered for Ferris?
Yeah,
Is
like
that
I'm.
really what you were asking?
Yes, like I'm trying to, waiting for all that to kind of unfold. I know that we have a lot of students signing up for it, so I'm trying to see if we're getting to a place where our AP kind of falls out and it
Yeah.
turns into more of a Ferris, and a lot of these distance learning that I'm sure will unveil themselves going forward. And if this purchase, as great as it will
Well, and-
be obsolete within a year or two, because it'll be being
And Dr.
replaced.
Delp did say that there were some other teachers that wanted to do this.
Right.
But we don't know what those are at this point.
Or if they have the help.
So, I mean,
Or if they have the
to answer your
qualifications,
question, I think I get what you're asking. That's potentially true. But I think we're kind of taking this, we're moving through this thoughtfully. And so next year's pilot, we're going to kind of reassess to see how, if everything's working the way that, it was presented that it would. The other piece is simultaneously, teachers need to have the credentials to be able to teach the college level courses.
Mhm.
So for some of them, they're going to start that journey to start to obtain that certification or those degrees. But that is something that could conceivably happen if Ferris is offering that class, if students sign up for it, if we have our own teachers with the credentials to teach it in a year or two or three. So,
Right.
So that is something that could conceivably. move in
And
that
going
direction.
with what Dave said, I mean, would we have to provide an opportunity to have Wi-Fi so that they could take it home, so that they could access these books? I mean, if they don't have cellular available to them, either at home broadly or where they're at, if they don't have a copy of their textbooks available to them on the one-on-one device.
There's a number of ways to address that, to include sending passages that the students might need to access home with them. But we've also been very successful over the last couple of years of using, and I'm gonna forget the grant name, but the big grant we got last year that helped fund part of the technology with the Chromebook startup.
Mhm.
It also provided Wi-Fi hotspots to families that required those. We still have those available, as well as additional devices for families that might need those. So those supports for the technology piece have already been built in.
Okay.
Seems like a fabulous idea, but I'm curious how many of our other AP classes have a digital textbook, or is this gonna be the first of that journey?
I'm not sure. Does anybody else have the digital versions,
I
Adam,
don't
that
know.
you
I mean,
know?
we're late to the game because we
Yeah.
couldn't afford it, quite frankly,
That's what I
to
thought.
transition to
Mhm.
this more virtual textbook modality. So if the question is if we already have them, I'm pretty sure most don't.
Okay.
But I would also project that as we move forward, whether it's AP or just core secondary classes, we're going to see more of a virtual textbook option become the norm. And that just keeps the kids from wearing, the 75-pound rucksacks around all day
Yes.
too. Right? So there's secondary benefits as well.
Yeah, well, you see the size of the
Yeah,
book
you're
that,
looking at it.
yes.
And that's just one textbook.
Correct, correct. So, and I would think that the book manufacturers right now are really, at least the ones I'm speaking to, are really promoting their online website versions because they are updated. You don't have to go back and have a book that is 10 years old and is how many editions behind the 17th edition.
I have another question. Do they update during the like once you buy a digital version, like how does boards across America keep up with updates that they might do? Do they update? Do you have to buy an update or do they just, you contractually in to have like updates periodically?
I can speak for, like, I've spoken to this manufacturer book company, and what they do is at certain times. So they might not do it for 2 years, but then they'll go ahead and update it. And TCI is exactly like that with our social studies products. They give it so much time, and then they'll go and do a whole update on all of their products. So it's not constant. If something happens that they're wanting to update, they don't just go ahead and do that, but it's cyclical.
Any other questions? Okay, I again encourage if you do have questions to reach out to Adam, Michelle, to get those answered before the next board meeting. Otherwise, this will be up for action at our next board meeting. Okay,
Thank you. So this actually segues from the AP American History. I'm now presenting on TCI Civics and Economics update. So my
Okay.
agenda, oh,
So this is an update, so this is what I'm trying to like keep my,
this is more than just an update. So you will see as I go through it, it's to add some supplementary materials for the teachers. So the agenda tonight is what is TCI, our rationale for doing so, our depth of knowledge, materials and cost of purchase, recommendations, and questions and discussions. So what is TCI? So TCI is a company that offers a virtual textbook, as we were just talking about, that social studies teachers would like to use as an additional source to support their curriculum. TCI enables the teachers to access vocabulary, inquiry projects, and higher depth of knowledge text bank of questions. The TCI materials will allow the social studies courses to provide differentiation of instruction and resources for different skill levels. The online access includes customized assessments, inquiry projects, and tips and tools for differentiation and blended learning for teachers, which they can incorporate into their instruction. Rationale for this is students will be able to access the material from their devices at home and at school. The questions were developed with a high level of rigor to foster reflection and higher order thinking skills to enhance student written responses. And the links that are provided in both civics and economics, as you can see there, they show the correlation between the standards and what is included in the lessons per content. Depth of knowledge is built into the TCI curriculum to provide cognitive demand and rigor for highest expectations of student engagement. Comparing and contrasting and linking supporting details to main ideas are two examples of the higher level thinking skills that students will develop and have enhanced by utilizing the TCI curriculum. TCI questions are inquiry-based and help students develop critical thinking skills. So if approved, we would purchase 4 TCI teacher licenses and 160 student licenses. The total cost for the licenses is $13,280. This includes both civics and economic content areas. So I do recommend the board approve the TCI civics and economics purchases as a supplement to our social studies curriculum within civics and economics at this time. Any questions or comments?
Any
correct. And this is a supplement to what they are already combining and using within their classes in both of those content areas.
So this would be a single purchase for 6 years.
Yes, correct.
Would you consider this a similar supplement to what we purchased last year for social science, not in economics and in civics, but in history?
This is a bigger purchase, actually. Those were questions that they had. This is more actual curriculum that they can pull from
Okay.
for both civics and economics.
Last year was like a series of case studies.
Okay.
And integrated into and they're really well done.
Mhm.
This is
Right.
broader.
Okay.
This is bigger than that.
Any other questions? Middle school science.
Middle school science, a little longer than that, so I will try to speak fast. And I
Maybe
appreciate
have,
your,
Kelly present as well.
and I have Kelly here to answer questions and to help write with some of the questions you might have, as she has done a pilot, as you will see. So we're going to move through the agenda, which is NGSS, the background of it, WCS's science adoption background, rationale for the new program, what is Open SciEd, the design of Open SciEd, ed reports for Open SciEd, examples of lessons, their scope and sequence, pilot statements, materials and cost, a recommendation, and questions and discussion. Come here, Kelly. You can join me. My partner in crime. Absolutely. So, the NGSS background. The goal for developing the next generation science standards, which is NGSS, was to create a set of research-based, up-to-date K-12 science standards. These standards gave local educators the flexibility to design classroom learning experiences that stimulate student interest in science and prepare them for college, careers, and citizenship. NGSS are different from prior science standards in that they integrate 3 dimensions within each standard and have intentional connection across standards. NGSS is a multi-state effort in the United States which created new educational standards that are rich in content and practice, arranged in a coherent manner across disciplines and grades to provide all students basically an internationally benchmarked science education. Williamston Middle School adopted investigation in questioning our world through science and technology, which we know as iQuest, to tailor their science curriculum to align with the NGSS standards. iQuest provided consistency among the grades and an exploratory design for their curriculum. Our iQuest paid subscription is up for renewal in June. The ISD, in collaboration with Rob Stevenson, is now endorsing a free curriculum called Open SciEd. The district needs to make a decision on whether to renew iQuest or choose a new MS middle school science curriculum. Open SciEd is similar to iQuest in format, with more depth to student-led exploration and problem solving. Open SciEd is the latest in research-based that programs now offer. So what is it? Open SciEd is a high-quality, NGSS-aligned, adaptable, and full-course curriculum. It supports science learning through phenomenon-based 3-dimensional units that prioritize understanding and unbiased sense-making skills. Open SciEd 6th, 8th grade materials was developed through a collaborative effort of teachers, students, and researchers. They had rigorous field testing in diverse classrooms, and it was implemented to prove that Open SciEd supported all dimensions of the NGSS standards. Open SCIED emulates science and engineering practices which describe what scientists do to investigate the natural world and what engineers do to design and build systems. The practices better explain and extend what is meant by inquiry in science and the range of cognitive, social, and physical practices that it requires. Students engage in practices to build, deepen, and apply their knowledge of core ideas and cross-cutting concepts. The 5 bullets provide an overview of the classroom design of the program.
Family override. It's Kate, it's always
Oh, no. The NGSS Design Badge is awarded to top-rated science lessons and units designed for the next generation science standards. Open SCIED is the only current science program that was awarded the NGSS Design Badge for the 6th through 8th grade curriculum. Sorry, my hands are cold. So there's an example through pictures of lesson part A. As an example of this lesson, students watch a video and see current events to respond to what they notice in the world around them in a science journal. An Open SCIED lesson set is made up of individual lessons, each of which have several parts or activities that work together to help students make sense of the phenomenon or problem. Lessons range in length from one class period to several. Students will receive necessary handouts, slides, and/or resources through our Google Classroom. Students will maintain a science notebook that they will populate with notes and handouts to make their thinking visible. The Open SCIED scope and sequence, which you see there, this slide is providing an overview of the units that will be taught per grade. The units are very similar to those in iQuest, with a few units changing grades for a better sequence in the design for student learning. A pilot was done at each grade so that the teachers could see how the unit lessons were taught. Students were observed to be more engaged. Teachers reported the curriculum appeared to require deeper thought and discussion than their current program, and increased rigor was noted in all grades. Do you want to speak to that, Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, it's intensities, let me tell you. But, you know, the lesson, like their first lesson, it took them 4 days as they're like investigating a phenomenon with Mount Everest. It's been growing. Why does a mountain grow? And so like kids were like filling that out, and then, all right, and building models and having discussions and generating questions about it. And, well, do you think all mountains do that? No. Well, yes, maybe. I don't. Well, let's check it out. And so there was just this great big questions. And so like through the several days and weeks actually that I've been doing this since after spring break, you know, kids are like drawing that. Oh, well, this is just like that, and then more so than they've done with our other program. But it is very deep. Very rigorous, but the kids they're enjoying it, they're getting something out of it, and it's something relevant, and it's current, you know, so like the lesson, for example, that she had a screenshot of that was talking about a 2015 earthquake, and the actual pilot lesson that I did, there was a bigger one in 2019, and so the information was like automatically, you know, kind of revamped in that lesson, and was made available to us, and so it was kind of, you know, just really keeping up with the times, but yeah, it's been really, you know, kind of fun to watch, you know, from my end with my 6th graders, and, you know, similar results from Dina at 7th grade and Jessica Hitchcock at 8th grade, that the kids are really getting into it, and they like the simulations, and they like learning about things that interest them. So it's been, you know, quite an engaging experience at the very end of the year. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So of course, dollars and cents, the lesson and overall curriculum is considered and is offered free. The website provides all the educational resources for the teachers. There's an upfront cost for the materials, which are packaged in kits from ECA Company. The cost for all 3 grades, and this is the maximum, is $19,773.60 that the science department went ahead and looked at everything that would be needed for all 3 grades to come up with the cost. The cost for the kits will be paid for under ESSER 3. We do have the money to cover that. So I do recommend Open SciEd to be approved as the new middle school science curriculum. And again, any questions or comments?
Kelly, thank you for speaking about information retention for your students, because there goes the days of where you just memorize something for a test, and that doesn't mean that you actually know the material. It just might be that you memorized just for a specific test, and then you're on to the next, and you forget about all that information. So I'm glad that you spoke about that the students are making connections from one thing to another and remembering things. I think that that's a really big deal. Any questions?
No?
Okay, well, thank you both.
Thank you.
And as always, board members, I know I've said it many times at this meeting, but if you do have questions, please be sure to reach out to Adam or Michelle in the next couple weeks to get those questions answered. Is there any discussion
Thank
or,
you.
not wanting to put this on the agenda for action? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
can
you.
always make that adjustment if more information is needed, whether it goes up to action or as of right now.
Sorry, you just wrap it around and take it with you.
Okay, now we have budget updates. There, thank you.
Okay.
Final first?
What's that?
Final first, right?
Yes, correct. Okay, so the first one I'm presenting on tonight is our 22-23 final budget. As usual, right here, the first column is our final budget, the second is our amended that I presented earlier this year, and the last is the difference between the two. We're expecting about almost 27 million in revenues, almost 26.2 million in expenditures, leaving us with a contribution to fund balance in the amount of $778,000. Here are revenue adjustments. The per pupil foundation allocation here is not technically what increased. What changed here is that the county was improperly recognizing our property values for our district online, and so the state of Michigan was therefore decreasing our state aid in the expectation that we were getting more in property taxes than we actually were. So they were able to reduce those property values online, and so now that we're getting made up that $274,000 in state aid. Did that make sense? I said that kind of okay. The other item here is MIPSR's 147C2 of 1.1 million. This is related to retirement, and it is technically just an in and out, so you're going to see the exact same thing in our expenditures. They're sending that into us, and we send it directly out to RS. Our property tax values here were finalized at about $26,000 more than expected. Throughout the year, we get property tax adjustments that come through, and we just file those away, and that just kind of adjusts our final amount. And then we just have some miscellaneous adjustments across the board that net to about $55,000 there, for a total increase in revenues of about 1.5 million. Expenses were pretty small here, well, not small, but only two adjustments. The MIPSRs, like I said on the previous page, that's are out of the MIPSR's 147C2 of 1.1 million. And then we had more adjustments across the board that net to this 104,000 for a total adjustment of 1.2 million. Our fund balance here, and the part you guys all like, is we are expecting to contribute about 778,000 to fund balance. That will bring us to a balance of 4.8 million, or 18.4% of expenditures. So one of the things that's really great about this, and actually Adam and I discussed today and confirmed with our attorneys, is that we will not have to borrow from our state aid. We won't have to do that state aid note that we do every year to get us through those few months that we don't receive our state aid payments. We do have some options should we get into a tight spot that are really quick, more customizable to our district should we need them, but it doesn't look like we'll have to, which is fantastic. Any questions on the 22-23 final budget?
Yes, we do like to see the total fund
Yeah.
balance in this graph, but it's also important that we understand how we got there. And so thank you for going through that and explaining everything really nicely.
Absolutely. So next will be our 23-24 original budget.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, so same thing here. First column's our original budget, second was a final budget that I just presented, and then the last is the difference between these two. We are expecting 26.4 million in revenues, 25.8 million in expenditures, leaving us with a contribution to fund balance in the amount of $765,000. Revenue adjustments, and I'm sorry, this is a lot. So we are estimating a $400 increase to our per pupil allocation this year, and we are basing that on enrollment of 1,860 students. We do believe that $400 increase is conservative. Let's see, so we did not use much of our 31AA mental health allocation in the current year, so we're planning to carry over those funds and use those next year to cover possibly our HRA positions, which we are assuming at this point that the HRA funding will not be renewed, so that's our health resource advocate, Heather Lewis and Diane Evans right now. We do plan to spend all of our Section 97 funds on safety and security in the current year, and those funds are not expected to recur, so that's why you see that reduction there. Our property tax revenue should increase about $133,000. Our 31O funding will be cut in half next year. That was part of the plan. This is what funds our newly hired nurses, psychologists, social workers, and counselors. 100% was covered in the 21-22 school year, 67% was covered in the 22-23 school year, and now only 33% is covered in the upcoming school year. The Kids Corner Little Hornets increase, that's that 7% increase that you all approved for the tuition earlier this year. Decrease in ESSER ARP is to match the decrease in expenses. This is mostly the HVAC upgrades that we completed this year and are not recurring, and so the funding income matches the expenditure. We also had the ARP homeless and ARP preschool that will not recur. Child care stabilization grant monies, those will all be spent by 6/30/2023 and will not recur. 98C learning loss funds, those are what we're using to cover paraprofessionals that are no longer covered by our title funding. Those are also one-time funds. And then just other miscellaneous adjustments across the board for about, I can't see that number, I'm sorry, is it 24,000?
34.
34, thank you. Okay. And then our expense adjustments. So we are looking at almost $600,000 increase. That is due to adding the step on our teacher salary schedule. It's increase in staff wages across the board, the related increase in retirement and FICA for those, as well as a 4.1% increase in our health insurance hard caps that Mike Gorsline did expect that to be about $60,000. I removed about $166,000 of bonuses that we had in 22-23. This would be the holiday bonuses and then teacher bonuses that are coming due at the end of this month. We do understand there's a possibility you guys might approve something like that throughout the year, but we are removing them at this time. Decrease in ESSER ARP, that agrees to the decrease in revenues, which again was mostly the HVAC that is not taking place again. Decrease in section 97 expenditures, again, just to match the revenue side. And then just a $15,000, oh, no, sorry, this was my original notes. I made an error in during our finance and facilities meeting with the ESSER ARP not matching the revenue, so I adjusted that, and that is now a $47,000 miscellaneous net adjustment. All right, and our fund balance, again, you know this is all just a projection, it's very early to know for sure, but if we roll with our $4.8 million expected fund balance from the current year, we expect to contribute about $765,000 at the close of next school year, leaving us with a fund balance of almost $5.6 million or 21.7% of expenditures. And we will talk to you about why that's important next. Any questions?
Yeah.
Of course, this is only a projection. We haven't heard the governor's final proposal yet.
Correct. Lots can change.
Okay, the fiscal clip.
The
I
fiscal
know, that's
cliff.
an exciting PowerPoint.
I know.
Fiscal cliff.
Okay, so here you will see our COVID-related funding. So as you all know, we have received a lot of one-time funding the last 3 years. It'll extend into next year, but then after that, they are done. We wanted to help you visualize what kind of impact those funds have had and how to plan moving forward. So here you'll see our one-time funding through fiscal year 2020 through 2025. These consist of COVID relief funds, American Rescue Plan, ESSER emergency connectivity funds, 31O, HRA reimbursement, state categoricals, and child care stabilization grants. In school year 2020-2021, we had funding of just over $1 million. In 21-22, we had $1.3 million. This year, we are expecting nearly $2.5 million. And then next year, we are expecting $1.2 million. This funding totals $6 million over a 4-year period that we will not get again. So you'll see here how we spent this. 62% was on wages, 31% was on technology and capital outlay, 6% on curriculum and instructional supplies, and 1% on miscellaneous COVID supplies. In fiscal year 2024-25, here are the staff members that are being fully funded by one-time grants. You will see at the bottom there, that's almost $1 million in salary and benefits. So we are presenting this to you so that you're prepared for upcoming discussions. As we plan for 24-25, we'll need to determine if and how we will retain these staff members, where budget reductions can be made without negatively impacting the district. And also we want to make sure everyone understands that this one-time funding is the only reason why we have been able to increase our fund balance by such large amounts the past several years, and that we needed to set aside those funds to financially protect ourselves when the fiscal cliff does hit. Because at this point, as you know, we do feel all these positions are essential. So, oh, and my apologies, that 31O positions are expected to be retained in 24-25. When I presented at our finance meeting, I was under the impression that it was required, but I did do further research, and it was the state expects us to retain those positions. That was the one that tapered off.
So the ones in the green,
Yes.
that's how it, okay.
Yes. Any questions on that? I can go back, sorry.
Any questions for Sarah? That's a lot of information.
Yeah, sorry.
And in our finance meeting, we had a question of whether this should come to the board now. I felt it should, just so that everyone on the board has an understanding of the impact that, not only that these have had, but that we are going to have some broader conversations that are going to need to be had as we get to the end of this to decide how some of these are going to move forward in the future because of the funding cliff, per se, and the funding drying up.
Any other questions, comments?
No, I think Sarah and Dr. Lewis, they covered it, right? We're trying to be as open and transparent as possible, that we're living beyond our means right now. All these resources have been invaluable, and they're making a real difference in our schools and for our students in a number of different ways, but it's not financially sustainable, as Sarah just outlined. So the point of this is to make sure you have this information and have some continuous dialogue about where we move after next year.
All right, more taxes.
Yeah, those items, there's not anything to present on. They're the same thing you see every year. There's nothing, no significant changes to note.
I think she just wants her blanket back.
I know. Like, I know already.
It's cold in here, yeah. All right, any other questions about any of that? All right, these will be moved to action at next meeting, so it's a lot of information, especially if you're not on the finance committee. So, again, reach out to Sarah or to Adam, and get those questions answered. I think it's really important that we know what is happening with funds related to
do this every year. It's just to stay in the association, it's board approval.
Any objection to moving that action at our next meeting,
No?
or any other discussion? Okay, and then the MASB 2023-24 membership renewal. It's the MHSBA, nothing's changed, just let it go. Any objection to moving that to next meeting, or any discussion? Okay, moving on to action items. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular school board meeting and our special board meeting.
Move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meetings on May 15th, 2023, and the special meeting on May 15th and 25th of 2023 as presented.
Second?
Motion by Julie, second by Chris. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We have no roll call vote items, but we do have 4 separate action items. So can I take a motion to approve Zebra Canine Service Agreement?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the service agreement with Zebra K-9 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Dave. Is there any discussion? So Adam, I did have a clarification. This is still the same handler and.
It's just a different
dog that we
management
have is
company.
just like-
Yeah, the company, well, it was a nonprofit, and they've transitioned over the last few months, which I think it's been a lot of work on their end. For us, what we care about is having Mrs. Eden and Gemini back next year, so that's what this agreement does, and as the board saw, the survey data, it's hard to get in anything, like unanimous, positive backing. I think this survey is about the closest thing here we're gonna get to something that everyone agrees on, so it was nice to see.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get approval for the 2023-24 athletic handbook?
Move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the 2023-24 athletic handbook as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion by Dave, second by Chris. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve Williamston Middle School 2023-24 student handbook?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the Williamston Middle School 2023-24 student handbook as presented.
Second?
Motion by Amanda, second by Julie. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve Williamston High School 2023-24 student handbook?
Move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the Williamston High School 2023-2024 student handbook as presented.
Second?
Motion by Julie, second by Chris. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Review of our board goals. We did receive some correspondence.
Yeah, I'll just touch on Mrs. Quick-Kendall, and won't do it justice, but she's been working here as long as I have. And we talk often about the Williamston way. It's something that's just the culture of our district that so many people, everybody in our district just goes way above and beyond what they have to. And Shannon just embodies that work ethic, kind of one of those unseen heroes that does amazing things for kids every day, but won't get her name in the paper for winning an award or a championship or something, but just is an incredible human being, phenomenal educator, and has can't say enough good things. And if you don't believe me, just ask the staff at Discovery. I think the world of her, justifiably so. So we're very happy for her, and so I'll leave it at that. This was a good decision on her part.
Yeah, but
We're
yeah,
I will be at a conference on June 19th and out of town. And I would also like to request that we not have future board meetings on our new federal holiday. I think it's slightly offensive. It probably just, fell on that date. It's new, so we're not all used to it yet,
Yeah,
but.
we tried to, so that they're not, that just got fixed, so. We'll make note of that for next
So it sounds like we may have roll call. I know we're voting on a lot of things.
I believe we will have quorum, but yes.
No, I was asking about roll call because I won't be here,
Oh, yes,
just
yeah.
keep that in mind.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? I just wanted to say about, the garden at the, elementary campuses. I did attend, that event as well, the garden party. And Becky Gerling at the end said, please, this is a community garden, so over the summertime, you're welcome to either maintain, it sounds like Kids Corner and, some families are gonna try and keep that on this summer, but if you wanted to help maintain that, reach out to Becky to organize that. But it is community garden, so if you're around this summer and would like to take some of, like chives or mint or whatever it is in the garden, you're welcome to. Okay, anything else? Graduation was lovely yesterday, as always, so, look forward to reading that, update on the website, but thank you all for, being there. It is truly the best, well, the number one thing that we look for recognition is, seeing our talented, brilliant students across that stage is really, meaningful, so, thank you for that. If there isn't anything else, I will take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion by Chris, second by Julie, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.